the emotion when it comes to guns, surrounding himself with gun violence victims at the State of the Union. Many were choking up as the president pleaded.
The families of Oak Creek and Tucson and Blacksburg and the countless other communities ripped open by gun violence, they deserve a simple vote.
It cannot get more raw than that. At the same time, for the National Rifle Association, the NRA, it's all about fear.
We're the millions and millions of Americans who take responsibility for our own safety and protection of our children as a God-given right. And for our Second Amendment freedom, Mr. President, we will stand and fight throughout this country as Americans for our freedom. We promise you that.
It's almost as if you don't own a gun, you'll die. You can't trust anybody, that is, except your gun. In the political game, it's sorrow versus fear. So the question, who's winning the war over gun control? LZ.
President Obama, right now. But I think the more that you have the emotional speeches and victims and survivors on camera without any action, the less power and influence he'll have, and the American people start to tune him out. I think there's a very finite window here in which this administration needs to act and build on that, on the PR side that they have right now. But the longer this takes, the longer it's going, the less influence he's going to have.
And Maria, I spoke with a community leader out of Chicago today because the president's going to go there. He's there right now. He's going to talk about gun laws. And this community leader said, you know, it's great to talk about murder victims and the families who are left behind, but we need concrete ideas. We need the president to come up with something for legislators to consider, and he's not doing that.
Oh, I would disagree, Carol. The president has been very clear on what we can do legislatively to try to prevent even at least one gun murder in the future. And here's where I think that the president is winning the PR battle, because he has put out sensible solutions versus Wayne LaPierre and the NRA, and Wayne LaPierre's rant that he put out in the Daily Caller yesterday, again focused on the fear that you just talked about, Carol, talking about Hispanic gangs going crazy, talking about those people in Brooklyn after Sandy. I mean, it was just a very racist rant that does not do any good for their position. And the reality of it is, Carol, the proposals that the president has put out there are very sensible. There's a Quinnipiac poll that came out yesterday that essentially said that 56% of Americans, a majority, not a huge majority, but a majority, support bans on assault weapons and on the high-capacity magazine clips. 92%, Carol, support universal background checks.
No chance of passing. They have no chance of. This community leader also says you can talk about banning assault weapons all you want, but you have to get to the root of the problem. And the problem, she says, isn't so much about guns, it's about the gun culture and the culture of violence, especially on the mean streets of Chicago. Go ahead, Jason.
And the president absolutely should be addressing that as well. There's no question about that.
Here's the thing. Barack Obama already won the PR battle because the NRA are horrible representations of gun owners in America. Most gun owners in America are responsible, reasonable people. The NRA is running around saying, let's arm teachers, and slavery never would have happened if slaves had guns. I mean, they're preposterous. So Barack Obama has always been on the right side of history with this issue, but he's not going to win the legislative battle, and that's the real concern that people have. None of his proposals are going to pass Congress. Very few of them, if they pass Congress, will be implemented in any functional way at the state level, and that's the problem. But the PR battle was won the moment anyone started getting really concerned about children getting killed.
Well, and Rich, I will say that the NRA's idea to arm security guards in school has caught on in some school districts across the country.
Well, let me take a wild flyer here and suggest that of the 5 of us, I'm the only one that owns a gun and is a member of the NRA. Let me just posit that as sort of a wild guess. That's number one. Number two is,
I'm a gun owner, but I'm not a member of the NRA.
Well, you know, I'll send you the form. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with going for a local district, if they so choose, to use retired local cops who have known these kids, probably knew their parents maybe, and ask them if they would like to have a part-time job during the school day in protecting that school. And I suspect a lot of communities would find that to be comforting, to have somebody who knows, because they even know who's supposed to be in there, who's not. You know, going back to our Ohio days, in Marietta, Ohio, I guarantee a lot of retired cops know every single kid that goes to one of the elementary schools.
Okay, and just quickly, I'd like to end this segment, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best shot, so to speak, how likely is it that some kind of bill is introduced in our legislature and our lovely bodies of Congress by the end of the year? Rich?
Well, if it was such a good idea, Harry Reid can bring up a bill anytime he wants. So my guess is probably it's got 2 out of 10.
Jason?
Getting passed, 4 out of 10.
Maria?
Feinstein's already introduced a bill. Getting passed, I think.
Yeah, but getting it to the floor.
I'm going to give it more. I'm going to say 7 out of 10 if we can get to where we agree. Universal background checks, Carol, is somewhere where some Republicans have said they agree with that. So let's start with that.
LZ?
I'm going to go 7 out of 10 as well. I agree. I think there are some very sensible things that's been proven to be bipartisan that we can get through without actually saying we're going to go in and get your guns out.
Okay, so what are our Facebook friends saying? Let's check. Okay, this from Matthew. Gun makers and who's winning the war on guns? I should ask the question first. This from Matthew. Gun makers and campaign fundraisers, and especially the lawyers. This from Justin. Gun advocates. The left is really misunderstanding how pro-gun and rational the U.S. is. And it's from David. The criminals, while law-abiding Americans argue over who's right. Keep the conversation going. Facebook.com/CarolCNN or tweet me at CarolCNN. Still ahead, scandals taking down some of the biggest name in sports. Talkback question for you. Are there any hero athletes left?
You guys are good to go. Let me just get this out of here.